I'm joined today by Jake Graber-Lipperman, established basketball conspiracy theorist and insufferable Duke basketball fan. Jake, how are we?
That was really, really rude.
Well, I was introducing the NBA draft, so...
Insufferable? I'm a Grayson Allen apologist.
Remember you were mentioning some dude named Frank Jackson, and you were like, remember Frank Jackson? I'm like, no. You know?
Neither do most Duke fans, so that's okay.
So I'm not alone in that regard. Anyway, NBA draft was this Thursday. Definitely some fireworks. DeAndre Ayton and Marvin Bagley go number 1, number 2 overall. The Puma boys, these were the two big names signing with Puma, but Ayton was a lock to go number 1 for a long time. We know this. The Suns told him that he knew it. Bagley going number 2, that Duke basketball player, your guy. Were you expecting him to go number 2?
Yes, because in the age of the internet, everything is spoiled. So earlier that day I read he was 100% going number 2. And the story everyone is talking about is that no one wants to work out for the Kings. So, yeah, I knew he was going to go number 2. Did I think he should have? Yes and no. Marvin Bagley and Michael Porter Jr. are by far the two most talented players to come out of this draft. And I could see Marvin Bagley really, improving. But I also wouldn't be surprised if he's one of these guys that's, around in the NBA for a long time and doesn't necessarily make his team better. For the 5 or 6 games he didn't play for Duke this year, and Grayson Allen, the game against Michigan State where he got injured 10 minutes in and Grayson Allen scored 37 points, Duke looked really, really good. And they were really fun to watch. And everyone played better defense. They would sub in Javin DeLaurier, and you had Wendell Carter, and they just were much better and played together better than with Bagley. But then in the tournament, you have games where Marvin Bagley just took over. And against UNC in the second half in Durham, he just took over. He is a talented basketball player that I think right now it's more about fit in the modern day NBA. He's not really a 5, but he's not a 4 who could really, defend the people who play the 4 now.
Yeah.
How is he going to be guarding Kevin Durant if he can't guard, Boston College's horrible players?
Play defense.
So, I don't know. I think I would have taken in the Kings in terms of fit. I would have liked Luka Doncic better. I mean, depending on your team, like the 76ers always had the talent over fit mantra, and it's worked pretty well for them so far. I don't like Bagley at 2, but I'm never going to doubt Marvin Bagley. He's a really hardworking guy. He has his head straight on his shoulders.
He's a professional.
At school, all he cared about, he did his work, he liked his music, and he played basketball, never partied, never did anything bad, loves his Jesus Christ. So, I don't know. Marvin Bagley, not shocked, but I'm not in love with the pick.
Yeah, no, and it really says something about the Kings here. Their respect around the organization is at an all-time low. Just watch Game of Zones for that. Speaking of Luka Doncic, that trade I immediately thought, and going around the interwebs afterwards, it kind of seems like the general basketballing community agrees that was highway robbery for the Mavs right there. Now, did they really rob the Hawks? I don't really think so. They traded next year's first rounder, plus the 5th pick. The Hawks might have gotten their guy in Trae Young, but if you're a Mavs fan, you couldn't be happier with this. I mean, Dennis Smith Jr. plus Luka Doncic in the future. One of those guys will always be on the court during a game. Doncic can survive. He can thrive without the ball in his hands. And it's been said a lot, and I think it's a little bit of a trope at this point. But, I mean, having Dirk mentor Doncic and having a fan base that has embraced, out of any fan base, has probably embraced a European big man, a European basketball player in Dirk, I don't think he could have landed in a better position looking back on it.
I don't think so either. And here's an interesting thing. Rick Carlisle is one of the most underrated coaches in the league. And did you hear this, that he recently said, guess what position he wants to play Doncic at?
Small forward.
The 4.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't know what they have in store for him. He's a very versatile basketball player, but I never thought he'd be necessarily a great point guard in the league. But I don't know. They could really surprise us with what he's capable of. And having a guy next to him in Dennis Smith Jr., who's, as we've seen, a very good scorer, he's in the perfect situation. I'm happy for him.
Now, it's not a team that's going to be competing anytime soon, but it's two pieces that are very fun to build around.
And the Mavericks are one of the only free agent destinations in the league. If you think of places where players want to go, it's Florida, Texas, LA, and Boston.
Yeah.
Like, the Mavericks, these guys thrive. They could sign some big agents.
Exactly, and the big thing is they have no big men right now. It's like the Nerlens Noel experiment failed. They have Dwight Powell, who's Dwight Powell, But, I mean, they might be linked to Dwight Howard this offseason. They might still be linked to DeAndre Jordan. There's options, and there might be options that are interesting going to them. So we might see in, the next couple of years this Mavs team really, if they can build around Smith and Doncic, and Smith and Doncic are the players we believe them to be, could be really exciting. On the other end of that trade, though, do you think Trae Young was the player the Hawks needed to turn themselves around? Was it worth passing up on Doncic or Jaren Jackson Jr.?
I think this is one of the things where the organization knows what they want. They must have liked Trae Young or something about him. And I think this guy's ceiling is Steph Curry. You've seen what Steph Curry can do to the league, both with the ball in his hands and with the off ball. I mean, teams are scared of Stephen Curry in a way that you don't see for a guy that's not going to just destroy you with his athleticism.
Pick him up at half court.
Yeah. Trae Young was the best college freshman we've seen in a long time, maybe since Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
He kind of slowed down efficiency-wise, but he wasn't really surrounded by great players. Now he's in the league. He's playing against better players, but he's also going to have good players around him. He doesn't strike me as someone who's scared of the moment. Mm-hmm. I think they must have seen something in him that other teams might not have, and every team's priorities are different. So I don't think
every
it's
team's
necessarily
scouts are different.
I don't think it's really a bad move by them on any part. I mean, it might not pan out, but I think they must have really wanted Trae Young, and that's how they were going to get him.
Just surprised me. It's like he's the franchise player now. They posting pictures of him with Migos, and I'm sure we'll see a lot of that in the future.
You know what it reminds me of a little bit is that the Celtics wanted Jason Tatum last year, and they had the number 1 pick, and they traded down to get the guy they were going to get anyway. No,
it makes sense.
Maybe the Hawks wanted him at 3. Yeah.
Moving on to number 6, my team. In a sense, I follow the Magic. I keep up. It's very hard to follow them because they just have not been good or relevant in 6 years now. What the hell is their plan? I mean, Mo Bamba at 6, I like it on face value. They're taking the best player available. His potential through the roof. Gotta love him picking the number 5. Bamba number 5, huh? Like Mamba number, yeah.
I got it. But
okay. He just seems like a silly, marketable guy, and I love rooting for him. But you look at this team, trotting out a lineup of Bamba, Jonathan Isaac, and Aaron Gordon. Okay, that sounds like something. It's like, okay, but it's like, what the hell do you do with Vucevic and Bismack Biyombo? Vuce is a free agent after 2018-19. Can't play defense. This has been well chronicled. Bismack Biyombo is not off the books till 2020. He's owed $17 million. Fournier is not off till 2021, and while I like him a lot, I think he's a good scorer and a talented player. He's $17 million a year. They hired Steve Clifford, your boy from the Hornets. Solid NBA coach. Definitely not sexy, but solid. They have John Hammond, the GM from the Bucks, who's clearly obsessed with length and talent. But they have no guards right now. It's just the Magic are one of these teams that has been caught in between rebuilding and trying to compete for so long. Did I say Shelvin Mack? I meant to say
and DJ Augustine.
Yeah, those are their starting
really
guards.
Good college players back in the day.
No, but seriously, what the hell is the Magic's plan here?
They don't have one. This is one of the things where your team sucks so badly that you take the best player available. It's pretty clear that's what happened. Mm-hmm. You don't pick for fit here. It's not like they were the pieces they have are going to compete anyway. The only people on the team that might even be worth keeping, if Aaron Gordon even, it might just be Isaac. They might just be thinking of an Isaac Bamba front court in the future.
Yeah.
Look, it's not like they're going to compete anyway for years. So what is the plan? What do you think they should have done in that case?
I honestly,
is there a better player to have picked?
You have to pick Bamba there. It's just like I question it all so much. I don't see a future next year in which the Magic are picking outside of the top 10, It's just they're not making the playoffs anytime soon. They're in such a weak Eastern Conference, particularly if LeBron James leaves it. And there's so many broken dreams and promises of potential. I mean, Aaron Gordon, the latest one. It sucks seeing Victor Oladipo become a fucking superstar.
And Victor Oladipo turned into Terrence Ross.
Yeah. All those trades.
There's an episode of The Office where Dwight tries to trade something really small at a tag sale for something more and more magical. In the end, Jim tricks him into giving him magic beans, which aren't really magic.
Uh-huh.
And that kind of fits exactly what happened. Good episode of The Office. Watch the tag sale episode.
Do you recommend it? Really quick, just want to recap. Cavs taking Colin Sexton at 8. The Cavs said they've made that decision without LeBron in mind. They're keeping in contact with LeBron. Kobe Altman, the GM of the Cavs, saying they're in good. It's been a good relationship. It's been a good process. LeBron's been very open, but I mean, Sexton's a ball dominant player. Needs the ball in his hands. I liked him in college. I think his potential's good. I don't think, obviously, he's not replacing LeBron anytime soon. I don't think he's going to come in and have a Kyrie Irving-esque impact immediately. But
what was a Kyrie-esque Irving impact immediately? The team sucked until they got LeBron.
Yeah, but I was just saying Kyrie came in and was very good.
Didn't make the team better. Colin Sexton could be really good.
Yeah, might not make the team better.
Yeah.
But, no, Sexton and Love in the pick and roll together is somewhat tantalizing. It seems like the Cavs are committed to Love at this point. He might be the star in the years going forward.
He might have no trade value.
Yeah. Unless they commit to a rebuild and they just decide we'll trade him for picks.
So I was talking about this with Dad earlier, but I think that if LeBron really wanted to help out the Cavs, he should, when he figures it out, should tell them what he plans to do so that they can make the rebuilds around him. Because if he wants to stay, the path to keeping Kevin Love and LeBron and then also getting Paul George and Kemba Walker is kind of there. The Hornets, the Hornets have so many bad contracts that they'll have to kind of undersell their own players while also packaging in like Nicholas Batum or Marvin Williams. Like I could really see a number 8 pick, Colin Sexton. No, it's not the number 8 pick anymore. Colin Sexton and George Hill for Kemba and Nicholas Batum. Mm-hmm. I think that the Hornets might honestly do that to kind of clear their books and accelerate the rebuilds.
Can the Cavs afford that, though? I'm not sure.
What do you mean, can they afford it?
From a luxury... the Cavs aren't in a
Who
great
cares? Just pay the money. Or get your players to sign. If ask LeBron how much money he wants. I mean, like, at this point, it's... If, you do whatever LeBron asks.
Yeah.
They could still... A team of Kemba, Paul George... and LeBron would still win the East.
I would love to see Kemba and LeBron on the same team.
Kemba Walker is my favorite NBA player, and I'm waiting for the day he gets his moment.
Yeah. No, it's interesting what the Cavs will do. I saw something that if LeBron... The most help he could give the Cavs is doing a sign and trade. Whether that's really... viable is another question.
Well, does he like Dan Gilbert still? Is he willing to help the franchise? Does he care about the team?
It's all interesting. He delivered.
He delivered. He doesn't owe them anything.
It's back to the decision is moot now. It was wiped clean. It's still there in infamy, but
I don't know if anyone knows anything actually going on with it. But I just read Brian Windhorst said he's only going to the Lakers or the Cavs. So I don't get going to the Lakers, you're going to have to play the Rockets and the Warriors every year. Like, why would you go there over the Cavs? Maybe he just wants to change his scenery and wants to be in more movies. I don't know, but it's...
He will be voice acting in the movie Littlefoot, starring Channing Tatum and Zendaya.
And he's really good in that Sprite commercial.
Yeah.
I think he should just stay and try to recruit and... do his best to form a good team there. Who knows?
Though, if we remember back to the original decision, the Heat weren't even a main player that anyone was discussing, and all of a sudden, right before the decision happened, they came out of nowhere, and people were saying he might really go to the Heat. Bosh signs with them. So, who knows? Didn't he set the date of, July 1st is when we'll know or something?
July 1st is when agents can sign with teams.
Yeah, that makes sense.
He might be waiting for the Kawhi Leonard chips to fall.
Yeah.
He might not even know, dude. He might just be partying.
I don't think he knows at this
point. It's somewhere around the world and just isn't even thinking about it.
Coaching his son's AAU team or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's an exciting time for the family.
Yeah. No, I agree. I don't think LeBron knows where he's going. And we'll talk about it. And everyone will talk about it in the sports community until the day it finally settles. One more really interesting tidbit about the draft I want to follow on. Michael Porter Jr., you said it, you thought he might have been one of the top 2 talents in this draft. Was the number 1 overall recruit out of high school until Marvin Bagley reclassified. Fell to the Nuggets all the way at 14. And the question of was it the physical, pretty much answered by now. A, because of all those teams were passing on, and B, the news came out that not only might not be available for Summer League, he might not play out all this season. Now, the conspiracy theory started as soon as he walked down the stage in the beginning of the draft, and he was kind of doing an old man walk. And I turned on SportsCenter or Sports Nation or one of these shows, and all the pundits are saying, what kind of kid who's healthy walks like that down the stairs? And it's like, okay, I think you're overanalyzing this a little bit. But still, I mean, what do we make of a Michael Porter now? Like, his whole career might be in jeopardy.
Maybe. I don't think this injury is kind of mystery compared to other things. It's not like he had a torn ACL or an Achilles thing where
It was his back.
Yeah, it's not one of these injuries where you immediately hear a red flag. And he's a skinny kid. I don't know.
6'11", I mean.
I think that a lot of general manage. I mean, look, when Kevin Knox got drafted, I was like, okay, like something's wrong with Porter Jr. Up until that point, I didn't really think anything was that weird. Maybe when Colin Sexton got drafted, but look, I think general managers realize it's their job and they don't want to get fired because they draft a kid who might not ever play. If you're the Nuggets, who are you going to get at? You're already good. Like, that's a pretty good team.
Yeah.
And for some reason, is a free agent destination, sort of. They got Paul Millsap.
Yeah, that was one of the most confusing signings, but turned out well.
They have a good team. They have Gary Harris, Nikola Jokic, and it's a good team. Will Barton, Jamal Murray. Like, they don't really need a 14th overall draft pick unless there was Giannis and Kawhi Leonard and Donovan Mitchell were all around that range.
But most of the guys you're taking there are going to be like a solid role player, which is exactly what they have.
For them, just take a flyer, because if he's as good as advertised, which was, kind of the Brandon Ingram mode where everyone's like, he's the next Kevin Durant. Clearly he's not the next Kevin Durant, but he could be a very good, versatile NBA player.
Could be a scorer.
Yeah,
could be an alpha dog, which is what they need.
I don't think he was as good as Ingram was even, because Ingram was just always a much better passer. But, I mean, look, he looks the part of he should be an NBA superstar. He's tall and he can shoot, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah. No, for sure. He has a smooth game.
I hope he can play because he could be a guy that could change the league. It'd just be fun to see him play.
Sure, he's a guy that can sell jerseys. It's interesting thinking about that NBA taking the flyer. Maybe they'd be smart, whether or not Porter's even physically capable of playing. Maybe they'd be smart to take regardless of if he is or not, they could be smart taking a page out of the Kings book, resting Harry Giles for a year. Well, that's a guy that, going into the draft, it's like, will he ever really be an NBA player? We don't know, and it's kind of looking like Porter's going down a similar road.
Well, we don't even know yet with Giles, but I mean, Ben Simmons and Markelle Fultz recently. People forget about Fultz, but what if he comes back next year and is the superstar everyone expected him to be, in the same way that Simmons emerged this year? I don't think Simmons would have missed the entire year in normal circumstances, but Philly didn't care. Possibly the same with Embiid in his first 2 seasons, but Philly has really shown that stashing is not really the worst thing in the world. They had a long-term view in sight, and that's extremely important. You see what happens when NBA teams aren't patient.
Especially when the same 2 teams make the finals 4 years in a row.
Yeah, I mean, the Cavs weren't as organically built as the Warriors, even though the Warriors now have Durant, but still, the rest of the team was organically built. NBA is about patience now. You have to get the superstars, and you get the superstars through the draft, or getting really lucky in free agency.
It's all about cap, right? Your 4 years is what you said?
Colin Kaepernick?
Cap.
Captain America?
Okay. Anyway, that's our NBA draft coverage. We're going to move on to the World Cup in a bit after this break. We're back after the short break, talking some World Cup. Me personally, I love the World Cup. Personally, me. I don't follow club soccer a lot during the year. I don't watch Champions League. I don't watch Euros and everything. Love the World Cup when it comes around. I think it's the greatest sporting event in the world. I think if it was every year, the tournament would top it. Just the fact that it's every 4 years, every country comes together. I love it. I watch every game. I try not to be the ignorant American just following along. I was watching Bomani Jones's new show, and he couldn't stop talking about that dude on Costa Rica who looks like Kyrie Irving. In terms of comparisons, though, I do have to get it out. Vladimir Petkovic, the Bosnian-Herzegovinian coach of the Swiss, he does look like if Bill Simmons was a Bond villain. Can we agree with that?
I don't see it, but whatever floats your boat.
That's fair. I just love how every European coach just looks so slick and looks like they spend hundreds of dollars on hair product every morning. Anyway, first topic, every American knows about Messi and Ronaldo. Argentina versus Portugal. They've had much different paths through this World Cup so far. Portugal opening with that great tie with Spain, winning 1-0 against, who was their second game?
Portugal?
Yeah. Morocco, beating Morocco 1-0. Ronaldo at 4 goals so far. Whereas Argentina getting absolutely whacked by 3-0 by Croatia. Luka Modric with one of the goals of the tournament. We'll talk about that in a sec. What do you think it means for Messi and Ronaldo's legacies, though? I mean, they're going to be compared till the end of time, right?
Ronaldo is the GOAT, and you can see he had a goatee. I love this little exchange. I think the two men have a lot of respect for each other, and I think the goatee move after the whole Messi taking the picture with the GOAT, I think it's all hilarious. I'm biased towards Ronaldo. I'm a big Real Madrid fan for the past year.
You hate to see it.
Since I studied abroad in Spain, and it changed me.
He's a changed man.
A la Madrid. I love Ronaldo. So I'm biased, but I think that in terms of recency bias for the crowds, and in terms of they've won the past 3 Champions Leagues, obviously Barcelona won La Liga and Copa del Rey this year. It's a good look for Ronaldo. It's not over yet for Argentina, but you scored 4 goals already, and they look like they're going to the knockout stages. They might have the potential to advance just like they did in Euros. It's a good look for Ronaldo right now.
My question, who's LeBron in this situation? Because Ronaldo's carrying the team and going lights out and has 4 goals and everything. So there's that LeBron-esque moment to it. But what about Messi, He's carrying a team that's terrible and just does not work together.
I think that's a dumb comparison because basketball versus soccer is, I don't know.
Yeah, I know, but we're Americans. We have to make these stupid comparisons. Remember that guy in Costa Rica who looks like Kyrie Irving?
I think the better comparison is like a Nadal-Federer situation where, they're 2 of the best tennis players ever, and you might be able to argue one's better than the other, but in the end, is one really better than the other? They have such different play styles and are both so incredible and gave so much to the game and have a lot of respect for each other. I think it's a better comparison.
That's fair. Argentina obviously hasn't been impressive so far. What teams are we the most impressed with this World Cup? I'll start out with Belgium. They haven't played great competition. Winning today, though, 5-1, 5-2, 5-2? 5-2. 5-2, pretty convincingly. Lukaku and Hazard both having a brace. They're the best team I've watched, I think so.
So I haven't gotten to watch them, unfortunately, but their competition wasn't great, but if you're putting up that many goals, good for you. It's hard to score no matter who you're playing.
That 3-headed monster of Lukaku, Hazard, and De Bruyne is just too good right now. They're all entering their prime.
I'm going to go with Mexico. They play hard. They have a lot of heart. Their fans are incredible. They stopped chanting homophobic slurs, which is great. Mexico has had 2 very impressive wins. South Korea, while they're not the most talented team, they're also playing with a lot of heart and very physical. I was shocked how kind of dirty they were playing. Mexico's composed. They play well as a team. They have some up-and-coming stars in Chucky Lozano and Carlos Vela. And, they have the guys who have been around, like Giovanni Dos Santos and Ochoa, and obviously Chicharito. It's a fun team to watch. I'm rooting for them, and they've far exceeded expectations so far with the upset of the tournament. Germany hasn't played great so far, seeing as they were a miracle away from drawing with Sweden, but still, you beat Germany. They look really good. Mexico has impressed me the most so far. I'm not saying they're the most impressive, but they have impressed me the most so far.
Yeah, we'll get to that Toni Kroos goal in a second. But that's a beautiful segue into the next segment. Thanks for doing that. My big question this whole World Cup is it's been a little harder for me following this World Cup with the U.S. not being in it because I used to watch all the U.S. games and then use it as an excuse to watch other games. Um, but everyone's been saying with the U.S. not in it, who the hell do we root for? And people are coming up with reasons. The main team people have been campaigning for, even Landon Donovan in advertisements, is in fact Mexico. But like, they're kind of our rivals. You know, I like to make the joke that outside of our embarrassment of not making out of CONCACAF, like the only reason we're rooting for Mexico is because we're embarrassed we didn't make out of CONCACAF, whereas, you know, however percentage of the country hates Mexico the rest of the time.
But also a large percentage of our country is
Mexican, the most ironic part. No. But seriously, I came up with this question, how do we root for? Because I spent an entire game watching Iran play Spain as massive underdogs, and I was rooting for Iran the entire time. And then after the game's over, I'm like, I just spent 90 minutes rooting for Iran when, you know, they don't exactly have the best, you know, human rights track record, and we don't exactly have a great reputation, relationship with them either. So seriously, who do we root for in this World Cup?
That's an easy answer for me. I'm rooting for Spain, La Furia Roja. Again, did I mention that I studied abroad?
Yes, you did.
I'm rooting for Spain, but in a normal situation, obviously, we're rooting for the U.S. So, interesting what you said with Iran. So, I remember I read an article earlier in the year, and apparently Iranians are crazy about soccer. So, there's an article about how the Tehran Derby was the most intense derby no one's ever heard of. So in Tehran, they have a stadium that holds 100,000 people. That's bigger than the Bernabeu for Real Madrid. It's like the size of, I mean, like the college football stadiums that, like, you know, that's like the most American thing ever, having 100,000.
Michigan is 108, and it's the biggest.
Get this. Women aren't allowed to come. They have fined 100,000 men who are willing to go to a soccer game.
Yeah.
So now you say we can't root for Iran. I mean, we don't like, obviously, some of the things that the country stands for, but I read a story about how the players in Iran are extremely liberal, and the captain of the Iranian team, his first name's Masoud. I'm not going to try to pronounce his name. I'm sorry, guy, but I respect you as a person because he got to meet with President Rouhani, and he talked about all these different issues and about how he thinks that women should be allowed in the country. And he also, in the past, has spoken out against sex abuse and about problems with civil rights abuses in the country right now. The soccer players might represent an extremely liberal thing. Obviously, soccer players can be, you know, propaganda for the government, but in the end, they're just citizens, and they give the country hope. They're heroes. So whether or not we support their governments, I think you can get behind teams winning. Now, I don't want to see Iranian's government happy about the World Cup winning, but, you know, maybe if this is the moment where women start to be treated better in the country, I don't know. I'm never going to root for Iran. I'm never going to root for Russia. I'm never going to root for Saudi Arabia, and I don't hate the players. I don't respect the countries. But you know what? I bet a lot of countries want to root for the U.S. right now.
That's very true. I don't know if Mexico would root for us.
I would hope they wouldn't.
Yeah, no. It was interesting. I did also spend a whole game rooting for Egypt against Russia. It's like, even looking at that, it's like, But
that's a game where you just root for goals.
Yeah, and that's what we got. I will say, I think I'm sticking behind Croatia and Belgium because those are the teams that have immense talent that's really fun to watch, but they also don't feel like, you know, the favorites. Because they're not the favorites, but they have the potential to go deep, make a deep run. Do they have the potential to win either of them? Not sure about that, but excited to see both of them as we enter the knockout stages. Speaking of Croatia, though, Luka Modric having what I believe was one of the goals of the tournament, and we've discussed this a little bit and debated a lot. What do you think has been the best goal so far? This is coming off, we're recording this 2 hours, 3 hours after that Toni Kroos goal to win the game against Sweden. What's been your goal of the tournament so far?
So far you've mentioned 2 Real players. I'm going to drop a third one. It's Ronaldo's free kick to tie up the game late in the game against Spain. It was the best goal in the best game so far. I think that's a pretty easy choice for me. Also, like, in the end, all these fucking goals are amazing, and I mean, we're not even talking about like Coutinho's goal or Xhaka's goal. They weren't necessarily in as high stakes situations,
Yeah.
Man, there's been some gorgeous goals, but Ronaldo's got to win.
Nacho's goal coming in that same game. No,
But no one's going to remember that one.
I agree. This World Cup has some highlights that are going to be on YouTube highlight reels and montages for a while to come. I think there's a little recency bias here. I'm going to go with Toni Kroos. That goal just winning the game for them. I don't like rooting for the Germans and Das Machine, but just how close those Swedish defenders were to blocking it. The insane hook on it, and just the way that free kick was set up. Like, it was one of these kicks that they're setting it up. I knew they were going to do a tap. They were doing something. I think the defenders knew. They still couldn't do anything about it. It was just one of these goals. As it's getting set up, I'm like, something special is about to happen. I could feel it. The Germans were pressing, too, with 10 men.
I know, that's what I was going to say. The stakes. This is the world champion, who still looks like they're a really, really good team, but hasn't really, they haven't been finishing. The stakes were really high, and they were playing without Boateng. Man, it was a storybook ending.
No, that was something to see. All right. That was our World Cup coverage. World Cup still rolls on. We'll still be watching it. Greatest thing to happen in sports, especially in this dead time, beginning a summer period.
What about baseball? We have the Mets.
Baseball?
Baseball. The movie.
Okay. Anyway. New segment. It's going to be coming on the GL Review every week. Winners and losers. Who won the week? Who lost the week? It can be someone in pop culture. It can be someone in sports. It can be a politician. It can be anyone. So, Mr. Jake Graber-Lipperman, give me your winner and give me your loser from this week.
The Incredibles 2 and Pixar won the week. The Incredibles 2 in 8 days made $293.5 million. Not only is the franchise so far one of the best superhero franchises ever. Well, I was gonna say it was one of the. I went in the wrong order. It's one of the best superhero franchises ever. I just saw the second one. It was like kind of a better version of Finding Dory, and that Finding Dory was good but kind of unoriginal. The Incredibles 2 was even more fun than that. Still unoriginal. Villain not as good as the first one. Who cares? They made a metric butt ton of money. Disney, in terms of sure bets, Pixar seems to be the best thing that they have going right now, because something we might talk about later. Off of Coco, which made a ton of money, even though it's not like a known property.
Fantastic movie, by the way. I saw it for the first time last night. Would recommend.
They're not even though that one's not a known property, and then the one I'm talking about, Incredibles 2, is a known property. Disney has it down that these Pixar movies, no matter what time of the year they come out, aside from The Good Dinosaur, I think they've all been huge financial successes. Mm-hmm. Good for Pixar. They make great movies. It's our childhood. They won the week.
Right. Who's your loser from this week?
Okay, Solo and Star Wars are still the losers of this week.
Sticking with Disney here.
Solo has made $199.3 million in its entire domestic run since May 25th. So that's $100 million less dollars than The Incredibles 2 has made in 8 days. This is a movie about like possibly the most beloved movie character ever. Am I unfair in saying that?
He's up there.
It's up there with Indiana Jones. Maybe it's just everyone who's Harrison Ford.
Anthony Hopkins as
Hannibal Lecter? Okay. I'll speed this up, but I mean, and Star Wars in general is in a state of disarray right now. Are all the spin-offs going to be canceled? Is the Rian Johnson sequel trilogy going to be canceled? There's jokes right now that The Last Jedi is going to be remade, and Rian Johnson is supporting this. Apparently, George Lucas has a new trilogy coming out.
Yeah, I remember David Benioff and D.B. Weiss were promised to run and produce. The founders of the showrunners of Game of Thrones were promised a trilogy.
Like, what? I don't get what's going on. I like Star Wars fine. It's not something that I've loved always, but I don't think it's really this thing that you can just beat it till it's dry. I don't think it's as rich of a universe as, say, the MCU, which is the most successful cinematic universe.
Wait, what about the DCEU?
The DCEU, we don't love it because we're paid off by Disney to only compliment Marvel.
Oh, right. Sorry. So, I love how you have to call it the DCEU, too. Like, that's not even marketable.
Just say the DCU.
Yeah, I know.
It doesn't...
But they're not... They can't be the MCU. It has to be different. It's not a cinematic universe. It's an extended universe. Jesus.
So hopefully Disney, figures out what to do with Star Wars and not beat it dry, because it's a beautiful thing when it comes out once in a while, but I don't think it's strong enough to support.
5 months after The Last Jedi comes out, we don't want more Star Wars.
I want more Avengers.
I agree. My winners and losers of the week. Winner, Baker Mayfield. This man has dealt with so much crap from Colin Cowherd over the years. It hasn't actually been years. It's kind of been just the draft process, but it feels like years. Back in February 2017, Cowherd came on his show. Sorry, not back in February 2017. This year in the draft process, Cowherd went on his show and called him undraftable for the embarrassing arrest video that came of Baker Mayfield back in February 2017. He tweeted, "No way Baker Mayfield should be number 1 overall pick." He did end up going number 1 overall. Baker Mayfield shows up. They kind of had a back and forth beef. Baker Mayfield shows up, goes on the show, wears a sweatshirt that says undraftable on it. Ultimate troll move. And he just absolutely roasted Colin Cowherd.
Who's my friend?
He is our friend.
He beat me in a 5K when I was in high school and was in the best shape of my life.
Yeah, impressive stuff. He, quote, "You pulled the one clip." Colin Cowherd pulled a clip where he was basically implying that Mayfield was a bad teammate. Quote from Mayfield, "You pulled the one clip of me right there running to our fans that traveled well to that game, and then you didn't show the rest of our clip of me running to our sideline. You're acting like I just ran away from everybody. I feel like you're going for the I'm not a team guy, I'm selfish. Is that what you're shooting for or what?" And also later in the interview asked, "Have you played football past high school? It's a violent sport." Kind of justifying his, his crotch grab and stuff. I'm not sure if it really justified it, but it was just funny seeing Colin Cowherd squirm and backtrack everything he said behind a keyboard for years. Hats off to Baker Mayfield. My loser of the week, Mikal Bridges. We didn't even get to talk about this. Gets drafted by the Sixers, hometown kid, wins the championship with Villanova. His mom is the vice president of HR for the Sixers organization. They trade him on draft night. After he goes through 30 minutes of interviews, and he wears the hat and everything, the news came out. He was still doing interviews. When they were finally over, it had been 10 minutes since the news officially dropped and his agent knew about it. You gotta feel bad for Bridges, right?
He has to go to Phoenix.
That's the other thing. He's going to Phoenicia.
Game of Zones. Poor guy. Also, what the hell were the Sixers thinking? I don't know anything about Zaire Smith, but maybe this is dumb on my part. I just think he's the perfect player for where they're at right now, which is competing for championships. Yeah. So they could have definitely used a guy like Mikal Bridges.
So if the Suns end up actually having that 3-4 guys now that become all-world players and they're a fantastic organization, maybe he's not a loser. As of right now, though, you gotta think, maybe my loser is Mikal Bridges' mom. Maybe that's who the real loser of the week. Another segment we're going to wrap up, just final thoughts. Give me your one-liners, maybe 2 lines. This will be a different reoccurring segment every week. Walk me through Trae Young's decision to wear suit shorts to the draft.
How else do you distract people from how bad his hair is? Sorry, Trae Young.
Is that what he was thinking?
Yes.
How else do I distract people from how bad my hair is?
Yes.
I'll go a step further. How else do I distract people from the fact that I sound like I'm 8 years old?
I was thinking about that also.
Listen to an interview with Trae Young. He does not sound like an NBA player. He didn't even mention Jesus. I mean, come on.
They don't all, Nathan. No.
I'm just kidding based off what you said about Marvin Bagley.
He does, though.
That was our show. You can follow me at NathanGL99. You can follow the blog at Unplugged with NGL. That's UNPLUGGDWITH. NGL. Go on the blog, find Jake's summer movie watch list, your 5 movies you should be watching this summer. Don't even have to go to the theater to watch them. You can read my big editorial about Puma going all in and trying to disrupt the sneaker industry. And that's our show. Until next week, see ya.